This is the story of Hatuey, Cuba's first hero. It might seem a bit odd, but Cuba's first national hero is actually a Taino chief from the island of Hispaniola. He only went to Cuba later in his life to warn the Taino there about the arrival of the Spanish. So what was happening in Cuba when Hatuey arrived? Well, there were three different groups of indigenous people on the island. The first of these lived in the west of Cuba. They were the Guanahatabe, and they lived in the area around Pinar del Rio, Viñales, and they were a cave-dwelling people. They lived kind of within the mogotes of Viñales and the surrounding areas. They subsisted on mollusks, on other types of kind of fruits, berries, shellfish, etc. Today, these caves, they're actually places where tourists go. They can take little boat rides through some of the rivers that are in these caves. And, it's a way for the government and the people in the area to make some money from the island's past. The second group that we're going to talk about are the Siboney, and they're really a bridge group between the Guanahatabe, who are all the way in the west, and the Taino, who were in the east. And the Taino were kind of pushing across the island, pushing against the Siboney, who were in turn pushing against the Guanahatabe. The Siboney really had things in common with both groups, and we can kind of just leave it at that. They were semi-sedentary, and really sometimes kind of blended in with either group to the east and west of them. So here we are with our last group, the Taino. They were the most advanced of the groups in Cuba. They lived in stable, settled villages. They were the only group to practice agriculture. They had their montones, these little mounds near riverbeds, to help irrigate them. They grew potatoes, they grew tobacco, they grew corn, and this let them have a surplus, so they could have a kind of hierarchical society. Really not many social classes, kind of an upper class and a lower class, but they were stable, and they were a very organized group. One of the other groups at the top of Taino society were priests. And priests had several roles. They talked to spirits. Spirits dwelt within zemis, these objects that kind of held a god or a spirit or ancestor inside them. They were literally sacred objects. And so priests were in charge of things like this. They healed people as well. And one of the ways that they would do these things is they would go into kind of trances. They would get the seeds from a certain tree, they would crush up these seeds, and they would snort this powder. It was called cahoba. And cahoba, it let them essentially see lots of crazy things, and here they would interpret them however they saw fit and advise leaders and so forth. Other things that were part of Taino society, music. Music was a key part. You're actually hearing Taino music right now. One of the instruments that they used were maracas, so a very authentically Cuban instrument that is still around today. They played sports. They played some type of ball game. Here you see the field that they used to play, or at least a kind of reconstruction of what the field was. Maybe it was kind of like Tlachtli, the Central American game, we're not sure, but the field was called the Batey. And society, if you were a big-time guy in Taino society, or woman, you had a cool belt like this. The last point that I'll make is about the Taino military and their weapons. While they may look cool, Taino axes, they really couldn't hold up next to even Mexica or Inca weapons, which should tell us something about how they're going to hold up against the Spanish weapons. They're not going to hold up against the Spanish weapons. The Spanish are going to be able to decimate Taino. Axes, arrowheads, and some knives. They don't have much more than this, and there will be no match for the Spanish. Okay, so back in Hispaniola, the Spanish were getting ready to branch out. They had subdued most of the people on the island of Hispaniola already. they were beginning to enslave them on sugar mills, small gold mines, and in other agricultural endeavors. Diego Velazquez was chosen to head the expedition to Cuba. Interestingly, his secretary at the time was Hernan Cortez, the guy who would go on to defeat the Mexica. But yes, he started as a secretary. Anyway, Velazquez makes the quick hop from Hispaniola over to Cuba. However, there's one guy who knows this is going to happen, who wants to let the people in Cuba know what's happening, and that is Hatuey. Hatuey was a chief in Hispaniola, a Taino chief, and he wants to go let the chiefs and the other people of Cuba, the Tainos, know what's in store for them. He tells them to throw their gold into the ocean, throw all of their valuables in the ocean, into the sea. This is what the Spanish want, and without this, the Spanish have no use for them. So he leads the Taino of Cuba against the Spanish, and they have some initial successes. They actually corner the Spanish in Baracoa. Baracoa was the first settlement in Cuba, the first capital too, but soon enough the Spanish managed to fight their way out, and we get the kind of standard result that we find throughout the Caribbean. The Taino are decimated. Hatuey is put to the stake. He's given a choice: accept baptism or don't accept baptism, and take the alternatives. Don't go to heaven. And Hatuey, he gives a simple, simple answer.